talked about in that last panel, nonviolence makes it more possible. Nonviolence helps us to know how to think about it, how to engage and eradicate injustice without being unjust. And it gives us the way of thinking and the philosophy and the way of acting, the methodology for realizing the justice and the equity and the peace that we want to see in our homes, our schools, our communities, in ourselves, in our nation, and then in our world. So thank you for being a part of this summit. I was just thinking, when we end these types of summits, we can say things like, my brain is full. But I was thinking about how often we have our days full of trash. We put trash in our brains all day, and we don't say our brains are full after that. But sometimes when we're in these summits where we're learning things that can help us be better humans and a better humanity, we start talking about how our brains are overwhelmed, and maybe we need a reconditioning. And bring Dr. King, Dr. Bernice A. King, the CEO of the King Center, convener of this great gathering over the last 2 days, on to just start to talk about that. How do we get to the place where our brains aren't conditioned just to take in things that aren't good for us? How do we recondition our minds to take in healthy things and things that move us forward? Dr. King is going to come on with us. Hi, long time. I missed you.
I know. It's been a long 5 minutes. Yeah. But before I answer that, I wanted to mention to everybody as well that we have adapted our 16 to 18 hour Nonviolence 365 e-learning course that you just heard about for the workplace. It's now 3.5 hours. So if you are working for a company and you are one of the individuals who wants to see and be a part of a company that is more inclusive and creates belonging cultures, this is the course, the class for your company. You can reach out to your human resource officer, your vice president of diversity, equity, inclusion. Reach out to the King Center, to our Nonviolence Institute online, and see about signing up. But I just wanted people to know that it's not just for individuals, it's for the corporate environment, it's for workplaces. So whether you're in the service industry, we need a lot of help in the service industry, because people just kind of treat you like another number sometimes when you're going through those fast food lines, etc., or at a restaurant. But this is about infusing the beloved community throughout our world in every arena and industry of life. So the news media,
globally
workplace,
too, it's been translated,
media,
right?
Yes, and globally it has been translated. So if you're someone who your predominant language or your first language, but you learned English as your second language and can speak it fluently, but your primary language is Spanish, French, Italian, German, Korean, or Mandarin, we have translated this whole experience for you as well, and we're going to be translating it into some other languages like Arabic and Persian and what's the other?
Farsi? Did you say Farsi?
No. There's another P, but Vietnamese and God, what's the other language that I'm forgetting that's very prominent down in Brazil? We're missing the Portuguese. Thank you.
Portuguese. There you go.
Right. And
hey,
Russian.
You had it.
In Japanese. We're going to translate into all those languages, and even add some of the closed caption, because we want to make sure that all of us have an opportunity to take nonviolence as a source of study. Daddy talked about it, a source of study and serious experimentation. You can't experiment with that which you don't have, any information and education in. So we want everybody to be educated in NONVIOLENCE. Media, it's not a dash. When we send something to you with nonviolence, don't put the dash in it. It's much bigger than just the opposite of violence. And we talked about all this, so I don't want to go on that whole thing. Take the course, sign up for the course, the class, encourage the places that you work for to reach out. It's for the faith community. It's for every community. And I'm going to say again, it's for the media as well, and entertainment community.
I'm going
In
to take
fact, you know, the Atlanta Dream, who is our WNBA team,
WNBA.
is taking their entire organization through the online experience. They signed up as a part of the 16 to 18 hour, what we now call masterclass. So let's do this thing. It's important to this mindset. So that's what I was going to say. How do we get there? And I'm just going to selfishly say that we get there through the nonviolence training. It helps to recondition your thinking.
Thinking, yeah.
I've seen just in the last 10 years, for me being the CEO of the King Center, how my thinking has transformed. I'm at a totally different place than I was when I walked in the door in this position because of the nonviolence education and training. And I don't just talk about this stuff. We took our entire team through the online 16 to 18 hour experience. It's now required as you work for the King Center. I did it. I didn't say, well, I'm Dr. King's daughter. I'm the CEO. Or I helped to work with the group who pulled it together and review everything, so I don't have to do it. No, I did it. And I go back through sections because I'm constantly learning because my emotions are tied up like yours are in this life. And sometimes when I go back, it resets me. It recalibrates me so that I can approach things from the right perspective. And I want everybody to know we're not trying to excuse injustice, inequity. I'm just saying we ain't going to be able to kill off, destroy enough people to stop evil and injustice and inequity, because those things are ever present with us in every generation. For some reason, those things find hosts in people, and you don't know who the people are that are going to be the next hosts. So if you spend all your energy and effort trying to do that, and it's like you're exasperated, it's like, I got to do another, I got to keep doing some more. But if we would just put the persistent effort into seeing nonviolence as a daily practice, because that's what happened. We lost what was happening during that movement, where there were a collection of people who were living this stuff daily. And now we don't have enough of that in a collective sense. Yeah, the people kind of independently in different places, but in a collective sense, if we can start just saying, okay, this is our daily living, this is the way we're going to deal with injustice, this is the way we're going to correct, these policies that have been damaging and harmful to so many groups of people, I think we can see the kind of progress we ain't seen in a long time.
I agree, Dr. King. What you're just saying, it makes me think about a quote that I read often from your dad, where he's talking about what this nation did to indigenous people, or what European settlers did to indigenous people. And his language, he says, our nation was born in genocide when we, and I had to read it a few times when I first read it over a decade ago. I said, the man said when we, and he wasn't even born yet.
You're right.
He wasn't here. But I think his use of the our and the we is trying to indicate to us that humanity is in a conundrum altogether. And if we don't work together to get rid of it, there's no need in saying, well, we weren't there, we didn't do that. The question is, now that we are here, what are we going to do? I think this summit has brought people together to say, now that we are here, what are we going? That's sometimes what people say. I didn't do racism. I didn't bring slavery here. But now that we are here, what are we going to do as we look forward, close out this summit and look forward? We just talked in the last panel about what we can do going forward. But I do want to just raise to the attention of the viewers, because this summit wasn't about bringing people together to say they are doing this. It was centered on, it starts with me. I need to change my mindset. And then when I cultivate a beloved community mindset and supplant those things that I was conditioned to think with things that help us move forward, I can contribute to transforming unjust systems. what can people do individually out there? You talked about the reconditioning, the nonviolence, and we can talk more about what that does. But you often talk about, and we mentioned it a bit yesterday, but just to close out, encouraging people to shift their input and their output, to value our minds enough not to put some things in them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard Kazu yesterday on the panel where we were talking about unlearning, and he mentioned Kazu Hagu, how strange it is that a nation that puts so much violence in seems to be surprised when violence comes out. And I said, wow, because you often talk about how this nation was born in a sense in violence.
Yeah, born in violence, and we've never repented from that, and never recognized that probably is the reason why we're seeing so much of it today. So it goes back to discipline. If you want to do something well, you have to think about those things that you have to extract from your life and the things you have to begin to include in your life. And I've often had to do that. For instance, I grew up in a very musical household. I was a DJ at one point. And when I would drive up to the church as a teenager, 16, 17, 18-year-old driving, I would have my music just blasting. They said, "That's Bernice."
Coming up to the church.
Coming up to the church. Lord have mercy. As the granddaughter of the pastor, because that was after my father was gone. And then no. Yeah, I was driving then. He was still living there because he didn't pass until I was 20. So, but my point is that I love all of my music. I still love music. You love music. We know that with all of our trainings and stuff and what you bring to those different training sessions with music. Music is so important. But I finally realized that, some of the stuff that I was consuming was dictating my attitude, my mood, my thinking, and ultimately influencing my behavior. And so I had to make some choices personally, as to how much of that consumption I was going to take in. And it's particularly important for young people because their minds are so pliable and they don't yet have the full capacity to morally distinguish things that are coming into their ears and their eyes until about 25, 26 years of old. That is scientific. I mean, you don't have to argue with me or try to prove a point to me. Just look that up. We're not morally fully developed until, around mid-20s to the 30s. And so you have to be careful what you take in on a daily basis, and decide what's better to take in, on a daily basis. That's the way we make these kind of shifts. I used to love action movies. I mean, love them. This doesn't mean that I don't like them or for time look at them, but I mean, I was taking them in. But I noticed that because I have easy triggers, anger is an emotion in me that can get out of control. I can lose it and end up in a rage fit. So I have to be careful of what I put in that could trigger and unearth all of that stuff. And you have to know that about yourself, so that you can feed yourself the right things and you can have the right kind of thinking. So now, I make sure that I lessen things like that and that I take in more the things that I want to feed the kind of thinking that I want so that I can be a vessel to help transform injustice. Because what I don't want to do is to get my emotions all tangled up in this stuff. And I get so combative and enraged and emotional, and then it wears on my physical body, and I'm no good to be able to be in a position to adequately speak a truth and strategize in my thinking about what are the best ways for us to transform these unjust systems. What kind of action do we have to put together when it's necessary for direct action at the time, having the right kind of posture so that I can be available in times where if I have to go in to negotiate before there is, any kind of direct action. All of that's a part of your vessel has to be prepped and ready. So, this thinking is so critical. and having conversations with people that are like that, who understand we live in a global society where we're so interconnected, you know, that we are a part of each other, that we are humanity, we're a human family, that it is some value to thinking about other people, not to your total detriment, but to expand your circle, to say, this is not just about me, it's also about my brother and sister. And I want to do this to make sure that they also have the benefit of some of the things that I have the benefit of. So yeah, it's all of that. It's creating an environment to re-educate your whole way of thinking and orientation.
We've been very intentional in this summit with language, from developing the titles to the theme for King Holiday. And when I started working at the King Center, one of the sessions that I shared with you was something I was doing on the language of the beloved community. And I think that's still important, because when we talk about mindset, our mindset is reflected in our language. When you hear the language of today, and as we close this summit, what's the language shift that's needed? The way we're talking to each other. How can we call each other up versus continuing to call each other out, and in a real sense, shut each other up so that we can't have valuable conversations?
This may sound ridiculous to some people, but when people are saying stuff that's just disgusting and hurtful and harmful, you have to find a way to focus your attention just on that alone and not that person. And I know that's hard because it's coming through a human vessel. But believe it or not, that reason making that person the target is ineffective is because there are others just like that. I mean, and again, it's about being wise with your energy. Your energy is to attack the mindset, the thinking that eventually comes out in some people with behavior. And then you have to deal with that in the best way possible with strategy and campaign. If it's individual to individual, there are ways to deal with that too. Sometimes you got to disarm people. I learned through a person that, I've had a lot of conflict with, that there's some people that feed off of that. They love it. They want to be in a fight. And I had to learn that I don't want to be in their energy field. Let them fight by themselves. Let them, just be combative, with themselves. And so I had to learn to not even feed that. So we got to grow to the place where we're not so driven by emotion that we can't distinguish between this person just likes to be that way. And so what they're doing is, talking about distraction, they're distracting you into into them, so much so that you can't even deal with the fact that all these other people out here that are watching, listening to whatever is being said, or even what eventually comes in behavior, can't even distinguish clearly or use their energy appropriately to address the injustice, the mean-spiritedness, the whatever, because all of this stuff has been just so combative, so anger for anger, tit for tat, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, what are we doing? So it's really about, having an ultimate goal in mind. And that's why we keep rehashing over and over again. We're gonna play this note till it's so much a part of the music that comes out of our world, and I mean literally now in terms of that. Because if we don't have something that people can grab hold of to collectively. We're just kind of scrambling around and doing the best we can do. But I think the beloved community is a universal vision for all people everywhere. And it is necessary for us, if we really want to create inclusive, belonging environments, if we want to create a world where we coexist and not be a participant in co-annihilation, it really is the best way to save our world at this point. If somebody comes up with another solution, I'm open. But this is really grounded in a philosophical way.
It is.
Yes, which is a mindset, a way of thinking that can get us to the best outcome for all of us.
Sure. And perhaps the 6 principles of nonviolence are the mindset, that it captures all of it. Those principles capture all of it. As I often share with you, and I think it kind of captures some of what you just said. Nonviolence for me has been a posture. It's that thing that says, no matter what other people do, this is who I am. And it conditions you to do that and to be that. So if someone is saying something hateful, I have to go over and say, no, I'm going to choose love. And I have to condition myself so I don't have to state the principle all the time. I can just start to live it. There's value in that.
And let's emphasize, Dr. West, because we do it all the time. Nonviolence is about heart change, legislative change, because I don't want people to sleep on that, because they think we just over here talking about, we just talking, we having conversations, cute little conversations, about things that we can get to later after the world is better. No, we're talking about some real radical, powerful, courageous, and compassionate, conscientious stuff.
It is. That's very important, Dr. King, because we often, sometimes people say people got to get their hearts right. But what we believe is, and what your parents believe is, while we working on hearts, we still got to get these laws changed. Like, you don't stop the legislative change to work on hearts, not while people are homeless and dying and being discriminated against. What we're talking about is a methodology, a philosophy that helps you at the same time you're changing on the inside, you're helping to change things on the outside. And I often describe it as an inside out thing. Nonviolence is inside out. It doesn't mean I stop trying to petition and get some policies changed because I'm working on myself. It means at the same time that I'm unsatisfied with injustice, I'm unsatisfied with things in me too. And I have to work them. Because as Dr. King said, a law might not make a man love me, but it'll stop him from lynching me. So
exactly.
Work on things at the same time.
And also for people to understand, which is one of the biggest things we always miss, stop focusing on who can't, who won't, who hasn't. Focus on who will, possibly will, who can, and who does. And what I mean by that is, we get so blindsided by, oh, it ain't working, they ain't listening. First of all, there is a group listening. There is a group of people watching. And there's a group of people that's modeling and looking how to connect. And so if you get so bogged down with the ones that's so wrong, the ones that's so mean-spirited, the ones that are doing all the injustice, you'll miss all the other people who are like standing there with their hands out, their hearts open, their minds, prepped, and miss them. We can't miss all those people. We got to win more and more adherence to what it is that we're trying to do. We got to make sure that we get more people aligned with what's just and right, and stop dismissing, because sometimes we dismiss people who might be in the midst of a breakdown, who might be just everything has hit head in their life because of all of the evilness and mean-spiritedness that they've been exposed to. And they might be at a moment, and we don't know it, even in their acting crazy. It's like that person, and I'm going to say this again, because I've said it before. Remember that protest that was happening, and this white supremacist person You know, this person who's a part of one of those kind of groups landed in the area where there were all these other
Protest.
protesters
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
justice, and the person just said to the person out of their mouth, "Why do you hate me?" And the person was like, "I don't know."
Right.
It was probably a reckoning moment for that person. So that's why you just can't. I get protecting your ears, protecting your eyes, protecting your emotions, because some people are so hostile and mean spirited that you do have to kind of put a distance to them. But in putting your distance, I'm going to ask you to pray for those people if you're praying people, because even though you didn't reach them or can't reach them, it doesn't mean that somebody else can't reach them. You know, there's some people that have the gift of reaching people in those worlds, in those areas. And we should have the heart and the spirit to not want anybody to fall victim to evilness and in being unjust, you know, and not thinking in a fair way. We're Daddy said it, we're all victims. You know why? Because those people one day were little seeds and they ended up being planted in their mother's wombs. They ended up getting to earth as little babies. They weren't always that way. They're these grown people now. So don't just throw them away and dispose of them. But if you have to protect yourself because it's dangerous, it's emitting, it's causing you to act crazy and foolish, I get that. But let your heart posture at least be, that's the thinking. You know, I'm praying for that person that one day they will be transformed, even if they're not getting what we're saying right now. You know, and pray
And
for the
that's
right
it,
person.
everyone. We're closing out this summit with a prayer meeting.
Yeah, we are. And
I
let me just thank everybody who brought all of this together. Thank you to Dr. West. You've been with us for many years, and thank you for your gift, your time, your sacrifice and focus and seriousness to this work. I want to thank Mike Lewis, who's been the producer behind the scenes to make sure that we are able to see all of this today in the world and represent it even to the world, him and all of his team. I want to thank Roz McGinnis, you know, who was the event coordinator for pulling all of the pieces together with, you know, the guests and working with you, Dr. West, the content and everything. I want to thank the special events team at the King Center who worked in the background with Roz with some pieces to this. I want to thank Benita Hampton Smith, the COO of the King Center, who's been working diligently behind the scenes, you know, in ways that you can't even imagine, that helps to undergird what we're doing through this beloved community summit. I want to thank all of our partners, the Center for Civil and Human Rights, the Carter Center, and all of those organizations that came by way of our participants. Thank you all for participating in this summit and giving valuable information and nuggets, and for the work that you're doing, because it's because of what you are doing that our world is not in worse condition than it is. And so thank each and every one of our participants. And certainly we want to thank Delta Airlines, JP Morgan Chase, and Papa John's for their sponsorship of this beloved community summit. And I want to thank all of the King Center staff and team. And if I missed anybody else, I thank you too. Thank you for listening. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for daring to take what we have said today and beginning the process of working on you. And as you work on you, simultaneously allowing the new you to help us transform these unjust systems, and remembering that we have to do it collectively, coordinated. So wherever you are in your various communities, help get them together. We got to do this stuff together, y'all, because there's a lot of work to do to create a just, humane, equitable, and peaceful world, the beloved community where injustice ceases and love prevails.
Thank you, Dr. King. Thank
you.
Listen, this summit will be on YouTube, probably, you know, to infinity and beyond. Please revisit. We're going to cut up the panels into different segments. We will continue to come back to these topics and to study and to talk with you. And we want to invite you to continue to engage. And let's just not leave it here, as Dr. King just shared. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Share this broadcast. Invite people to courageous conversations. Pay attention to our beloved community talks. We have one coming up on January 31st that continues our conversation on the relationship between Black and Jewish communities. How can we work together? We want to invite you to view our commemorative service, our Martin Luther King Jr. Day Beloved Community Commemorative Service on Monday at 10 a.m. It'll be streaming on Fox 5 News and at thekingcenter.org. We want to invite you to view the streaming of our Beloved Community Awards Monday at 5:30 p.m. We want to invite you to continue to be a part of what we're doing at the King Center to study nonviolence without that hyphen, so that we can learn to live together. We can learn to implement policies that are courageous, that are love-centered. We can learn to have higher discourse, and we can learn how to engage our families. We can learn how to engage our communities, our schools, with love and with kindness. We're going to continue. We're keeping this going. And these three things that we ask you to do, we want to leave you with those three commitments we want you to make. We want you to commit to a beloved community mindset, to commit to broadening your loyalty, so we're not just nation-centered or centered on our own families or people who look like us. And the third thing, commit to organizing into partnership. We'll get back with you as the King Center on all of those. On behalf of Dr. Bernice A. King, thank you for being a part of viewing, being panelists for, moderators for this 2023 Beloved Community Global Summit.